Echoes of the harbor. Noah stood at the edge of the old wooden dock, the salt sea air whipping around him like a whisper of memories. His hands trembled, not from the cold, but from a grief so raw it felt like a wound reopened. This place, this harbor, held every echo of his father's dreams and his mother's silent sorrow. Growing up, Noah's life revolved around his parents. His father, Thomas, was a fisherman, tall, kind-faced, with a laugh that rumbled like the waves against their boat. His mother, Grace, was gentle and soft-spoken, the kind of woman who carried light in her eyes even when the sea was dark. Thomas loved the sea, but he loved Noah more. He taught his son how to read the winds, mend nets, and navigate by the stars. Grace watched them from the shore, worry shadowing her features every time their boat headed out for a long night. She carried a heart-thrum of fear, knowing the sea was beautiful and brutal. One evening, when Noah was just a boy of 8, Thomas didn't come home. A violent storm rose unexpectedly, tossing their small fishing vessel like a toy. Grace waited on the shore that night, clutching Noah close, scanning the waves in hopeless vigil. She knew then with every fiber of her being that something was deeply wrong. Rescue teams came the next morning, but they found only a broken mast bobbing in the sea. Thomas was gone. The harbor took him. Grace's grief hardened over time. She rented out their little cottage, moved to the city, and never sailed the waters again. Noah stayed, anchored to the memory of his father and the promise of the sea. Years passed. Noah grew into a young man, lean and weathered, with his father's steady hands, but his heart carried a restless ache. He remembered Thomas's dreams to provide, to explore, to find a better life for his family away from the threat of storms. And though he loved Grace, he resented her for leaving, to escape the pain she couldn't heal. He felt abandoned in two worlds. One day a letter arrived in his weather-beaten mailbox, an old map, fragile and stained, drawn in Thomas's handwriting. It marked a small island far beyond the usual fishing grounds. Underneath, Thomas had scribbled, "Follow the stars. There's something more." Noah stared at the map, his heart pounding. Could this be a final message, a promise he never knew? He knew this was dangerous. No one in the village had ever dared to sail that far. But if he didn't try, he would be living in his father's absence for the rest of his life. He persuaded Evelyn, his childhood friend, to help him. Evelyn was a marine biologist, smart, brave, and fiercely loyal. When Noah showed her the map, she hesitated. She knew the sea's risks better than most, but she also believed in him, in his longing, and in Thomas's legacy. They repaired an old boat together. Late at night, by the light of lanterns, Evelyn helped Noah patch torn sails. She listened when he talked about his father, about his bitterness toward Grace. She never judged, she just stayed by his side. When they finally set sail, the sea welcomed them with a gentle hush. The first nights were peaceful, and hope bloomed in Noah's chest. But then the storm came, a monster of wind and wave that seemed to mock his father's fate. The boat pitched violently, Evelyn braced herself at the helm, and Noah fought to keep them steady. In the heart of the storm, Noah thought of Thomas, how his father laughed, how he'd say, "Son, I trust you." That trust, that bond, gave Noah strength. He shouted through the roar, guiding Evelyn, adjusting lines, steering by instinct. It was terrifying. He could almost feel the sea's power, its desire to swallow him whole. When dawn broke, they found themselves drifting toward the island on the map, exhausted, battered, but alive. The island was small, wild, and breathtaking, a jagged jewel rising from the ocean. On its shore, Noah discovered a battered chest half buried in sand, hidden beneath driftwood. With trembling hands, he pried it open. Inside there was a journal, Thomas's journal, filled with sketches, plans, and hopes. He had dreamed of building a refuge on this island, a place where he could fish safely, where his family could be free, where the sea wouldn't be a threat but a companion. Tears brimmed in Noah's eyes as he read his father's final words. Maybe one day someone will come. Maybe one day he'll finish what I started. Noah glanced at Evelyn, his friend who had become his anchor, and then at the horizon, where the sun touched the sea with gold. He understood. This journey wasn't just for himself, but for Thomas, for Grace, for every dream left unspoken. They returned to the harbor weeks later, the chest tucked under cover. When Grace saw Noah stepping off the boat, she gasped. Time had changed her, lines etched in her face, sorrow in her eyes, but she still recognized him, her son, her anchor. Noah walked to her, hands trembling not with fear but with forgiveness. He held out the journal. He didn't give up. I didn't give up. He closed the distance between them. Grace knelt, embracing him. In her tears he felt the weight of years, the pain of loss, and the hope of what could be rebuilt. She whispered brokenly, "Your father loved you, he believed in you." Months later the harbor transformed. Noah and Evelyn rebuilt the old docks, reinforced the boats, and built a small refuge, just like Thomas had dreamed of in his journal. Fishermen no longer feared the storm, they respected the sea. Grace came back often, sitting by the shore, watching her son, her heart finally at peace. Noah stood by the water's edge again, sky above, waves below, and whispered to the sea, "I kept your dream." He closed his eyes, imagining his father's strong hands on his shoulder, hearing the echo of his laughter in the wind.